Finally, more marmalade. Paddington in Peru is directed by Dougal Wilson and is the third entry to this franchise. So what did we think about it? Well, let's talk about it and give it a score. Acting! So I'm just going to go out with it, right? Sally Hawkins is completely missed within this film. So if you don't know, Sally Hawkins played Mary Brown, the mom of the Brown family, and she was a lot of the heart and the soul of those first two movies. The way she plays it, the way she does everything, her actions, her everything just fits that story and that world so well. And unfortunately, she's not in this one. But I also don't want to discredit Emily Mortimer, who does take on the mantle and the huge responsibility and shoes to fill of Sally Hawkins. She isn't bad. I will let you know. She is not bad in this film whatsoever. I just think she's missing that little that little bit of stuff that Sally Hawkins brings. Ben Whishaw also returns back as Paddington, and he's as great as ever. Like, I love Paddington. I love him as the voice of Paddington. Big old kudos. Love everything that he did. So, and of course, you get your normal cast of characters back from the original two. And you, of course, have some new people like Antonio Banderas. He plays his role extremely well. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of things going on in his head. And he just does something absolutely amazing throughout the whole film because he's Antonio Banderas, and he's absolutely phenomenal. Olivia Colman also is a newbie within the franchise. She plays a nun within the story, and she's good. She's great. She plays the character the way that I would probably tell her to play it, or if she was just a good professional, she would look and say, oh, I'm going to play it like this. Overall, I think the film does a really good job at keeping 99% of the cast remaining, but they do lose a lot of it, and that's the heart and the soul, and that's the mom, because the mom's relationship with Paddington is such a key element within the story. So unfortunately, I have to give it a half a star out of 1 just because I felt like there was something missing. Visuals. So yeah, Paul King isn't in the director's chair this time, but he did help with the story, and visually you definitely can tell he's not there. But Eric Wilson, who did Paddington 1 and 2 at a cinematography level, still exists there, so at least the shots still make sense in the world that they're building. But there's something about the film that just feels off. It doesn't have that same love and that same passion that I felt like the first two had, just from the look and the colors and how everything was. I just felt like there was something missing, and that's Paul King's just directing style and how he wants everything done. That's no shade to Dougal Wilson at all. No shade. But Paul King is just a special eye for things and how he wants everything oriented. Also, there are a few mistakes within the film that I noticed that kind of frustrated me sometimes. There would be characters standing, they do a wide shot, and then they'd be missing. There's sometimes the CGI looks really rough, but also the fact that Paddington looks really great. Aunt Lucy looks absolutely amazing. Like, the bears in this film look absolutely stunning as per usual, and they've only kind of touched him up and made him look better over time. Overall, I wasn't in love with the visual aspect of this film, so I'm only going to give it a half a star out of 1 within this category. Audio. So again, Paul King missing really hurts this film. The first two Paddingtons have such a interesting audio style to them. It is whimsical, magical, and I feel like there isn't as much magic in this third one as the first two were. It kind of stung when I kind of realized, dang, like, it doesn't have that same feel. The music is just so close of being there, but it's not. The line delivery, the audio, just in general like that, is just so close of being there. They get rid of the band from the first two that are always playing around the story. Overall, I think it was just really close, but not close enough. So I'm only going to give it a half a star out of 1 within this category. Story. So the first two are really good. The second one, to me, is perfect. And this one is surprising. I will say about 80% throughout the movie, I went, it's not it. It's not it. I don't love it the way I loved the first two, at least at this point of the film. It just isn't there. To me, the film had a loss of direction because the first two movies had those directions, but had the swerves, but it made sense to where the person was. But this film felt absent of that. The film got very confusing because it was only sole priority was to have the twist and the emotional beats at the end hit hard, but they didn't hit hard enough because of the whole story in general. Paddington 1 and 2 work so well because they slowly build and build and build and build. And while this sort of does that, it doesn't have the proper incline like the others do. It's like kind of like a little small hill. But the last 20%, the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes of this film are magical. They are exactly what I expect in a Paddington film. And I'm so glad that that magic and that light that I love so much about Paddington movies was in this film too. The heart and the soul was there. I saw it. I enjoyed it. I soaked it in because this may be the very last time I see Paddington on a movie screen. So a full star out of 1 within this category. Enjoyment. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoy Paddington films. Listen, I know it's a CGI talking bear. I get it. Trust me, when the second one came out and it was getting rave reviews, I was confused too. Then I opened up my heart. I opened up my mind. I said, you know what? Let's give it a chance. And I'll never want to go back. I don't regret watching Paddington 1 and then hours later saying, I'm going to go see Paddington 2 now because I need to see it when it came out. And I'm glad that this one at least had some of the heart and soul from the first two carry over to this new era of Paddington. Paul King is definitely missed within this film, but at least they got about 90% of it there. And that 90% is really, really good. And I appreciate it so much. This was one of my most anticipated films of this year, mostly because I was interested in the direction they were going to go without Paul King, but also because I love Paddington just so much. So I was wondering what was going to happen, and I was very surprised, and I enjoyed it a lot. So with enjoyment, I'm going to give it a full star because I enjoyed my time in the movie theater, even though kids were screaming. So if you're keeping track at home, that means Paddington in Peru gets 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think the film is good.